Hello folks, I hope that you're having just an amazing day today. Today I take another look at Robert W. Chambers, and we're taking a look at a short story that he wrote in the mid-1890s called A Pleasant Evening, which is a horror short story that was written by Robert W. Chambers. Now I have been taking my Thursdays and doing an unpacking of Robert W. Chambers, a lot of his horror and other speculative fiction works that he wrote during his time. Now, as a reminder, Robert W. Chambers was a big writer during his time. He was well sold, well read. He published dozens of novels, tons of short stories, plays that were put on. He influenced more than 20 early silent films that were based on his novels at the time. He was an incredibly well-read guy, but he was not somebody who stood the test of time. Unfortunately, most people today aren't going to know who Robert W. Chambers is. That's just a natural fate of things. But he had this one work in 1895 called The King in Yellow that was in the horror genre that really kind of transcended his stuff. It really made a mark on the genre and himself, and became his swan song, his final greatest work that he had, and that's The King in Yellow. Now, I've been unpacking The King in Yellow for you, and I have a collection here of not only some things from The King in Yellow, but it also has, edited by the editor in here, some short stories by Robert W. Chambers that are horror stories that were not in The King in Yellow that was published in 1895. Last week I did a short story for you called The Key to Grief, which is the first short story that I read by Robert W. Chambers that wasn't published in The King of Yellow collection of short stories. And I enjoyed it for you. I thought The Key to Grief was pretty solid. And today I got another one for you tonight, A Pleasant Evening, which I have in this story. I'll try to link you to it. All of his stuff is free. The only question is because he isn't somebody who's well known today. Was this short story enough of a hit that it's been available online for free in a place like Project Gutenberg? I don't know. I know all of this stuff in The King in Yellow is. But whether or not his other stuff is, I just don't know. So I'll look for it, and if I can find it, I'll link you to it in the comments below. But otherwise, you might just have to buy it on a collection like this one by an editor. So we're taking a look at A Pleasant Evening. Now, A Pleasant Evening is set in New York City, and we're going to be taking the part of a person who is an artist for a newspaper that is popular in New York City. Basically, what this person is doing, our protagonist, is going to be somebody who draws pictures for because this is obviously before cameras, became common for newspapers or chronicles, and so he draws pictures. And he's just come back from the state fair at New York City, from New York State, and he's very tired of the things that are happening, and he's very weary, but he's asked by his editor to do another assignment, which he doesn't really want to take on, which is going to the zoo and reviewing it. Now, his editor is middle-aged guy. He's super soft. He's described as a pussycat. He's not somebody that you ever want to fight with, or you feel bad going even though you don't like him, and he complains about his editor, but he won't actually complain about his editor to his editor, or fight for his cause to his editor. That's just not something he does, or something he cares about in any way, shape, or form. But that's beside the point. The key parts here, though, are what's going to end up happening is our editor's going to wind up, our artist is going to end up going to the zoo and beginning to illustrate the zoo, and you'll have about 2 or 3 pages of zoo at drawing life, and he's going to come across this woman who's looking at these birds, and while he's drawing the scene with the rocks and the birds and the landscape, he begins to draw the woman who's looking at these birds and has been there for a while now, and he realizes that after spending some time drawing the story, he spent more time drawing the woman, and the scene has really become about her rather than it was about the birds that he was here to draw. Something in her has grabbed his attention, and it's not going to let go. He finishes his piece, and it begins to move on, and then some things begin to happen in pretty quick succession, and we'll find out some pretty crazy stuff is happening, and it comes to a pretty cool resolution. Now, it is a sort of a horror story set in New York. The real horror will be, while the beginning has traces of horror, the real sort of supernatural stuff will start probably in the last 2 or 3 pages of the story, which is not uncommon for horror of that day, to have some of the tropes of the genre, but not really kind of push to the genre until that kind of thing happens. That's just happenstance and the things of the day. Again, I'll try to link you to it. I do think this is a 7 out of 10. It's well written, strong. It's worth reading. It's worth talking about because I do enjoy Pleasant Evening. It does have some good descriptions in it. I do think that it might be two or three pages too long, which probably keeps it from getting an 8 or 9. Because I do think that there's probably some pacing issues that prevent it from being a perfect work, but it's fine. It's worth reading. It's worth your time, and I recommend it to you. So that's Robert W. Chambers' A Pleasant Evening. Have you read A Pleasant Evening? What did you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with anything here in the story? I would be happy to engage you with anything further in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button because there's going to be a lot of these to follow. And finally, hey, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and watching my video. We all have so many things happening in our lives, right? So the fact that you spent this time with me, it's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.